Hey everybody, this is Tasha with Prep For It. It's great to see you all again. Oh, hey Teresa, you snuck in over there. Let's see who else is here. We've got Gardner Josh, Southern Ohio Prepping, Trish Wiley, Mouse Toes, Teresa Lovespoons, Gear Grad 19, Backwoods Law, Bruce over there, Camp Patton Family Compound, Mr. Gill. We have Bernice Balby. Hello, Bernice. We have, I know I saw someone else up here. And it'll take a minute because I don't know if I've been shadow banned or what, but it seems like it takes forever for people to start showing up. Well, maybe I'm, Morgan with Threads and Jars was over there as well. If I missed you, I'm so sorry. I'm half blind today, so please forgive me. Okay, real quick reminders before we get started. Y'all don't forget the Prep For It Food Challenge. Oops. Let me put the banner up so you'll know what hashtag to use. Prep For It Food Challenge. Hashtag Prep For It Food Challenge. We're looking for people to make videos about cooking as inexpensively as you can with shelf-stable foods. We have a $0 to $5 category and a $6 to $10 category. So if it feeds more people, but it costs over that $5, well, we'll probably just shuffle them all together. But remember, Bruce from Backwoods Law is donating. He does leather work, so he's donating either coasters or a knife cover or like a sheath. So you guys can take your pick whichever you'd want. And then Sandra Moody is donating Thrive Life chicken, freeze-dried chicken, a pantry can size, and I have essential oils that I'm donating, and I have some other preparedness items that are small, but I will be donating those, and no telling what else I might throw in there. So anyway, so again, you have to have those videos done. Make sure you use the proper hashtag by Saturday the 20th, which is the Saturday before Thanksgiving, 9 Eastern Standard Time, 8 Central Standard Time. That way I have a chance to review the videos again, and I will announce the winners on the 29th on my decompression time, which starts at 5 Central Time, 6 Eastern Time, right here on my channel. And then, of course, we have our pain chat that's just an hour before that. So 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, chronic pain illness chat. That's private. So if you do want to attend that, you do need to email me at that email right there and let me know you either want to be up on the panel or in the side chat. Those that want to be on the panel, I send both links. That way, if for some reason you're not up to being on the panel, you can be on the side chat. Without further ado, let's get started. So I'm joined by Eric from Bland's Promised Land Ranch. And he and his wife, Monica, run the ranch. And I appreciate you joining us, Eric.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Thanks. So before we get started on our topic, tell us a little bit about your channel, about your ranch, general area of where you're located, and what type of animals you have, things like that.
Sure. Yeah, so we're located in the northeast quadrant of Texas. You know, Texas is a fairly large state. My wife and I relocated in 2014 down to Texas. So learning how big the state actually was, I still haven't gotten the full scope of it. I just know that most people use airplanes when they're flying, trying to get from one side of the state to the other because it's so big.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm about an hour east of Dallas. And so it makes it if you look on Google Earth, you'll see that that's kind of more of a green area. And I'm thankful for it that we do get some rain. It's not quite desertous. I usually joke with my wife about that, but it's not quite as, you don't get quite as much precipitation as we did when we were up north in Maryland.
Yeah. So, same here in western Oklahoma. We've got sagebrush growing everywhere. We've got yucca plants growing everywhere, cacti. Yeah, lots of sand. Yeah. And kind of down where you're at, it's pretty similar, I believe.
Yeah, so I had a friend coming to visit this past week. He's never been here to Texas, and so we were walking through the pasture, and I showed him a couple areas where cactus was growing on its own, and he just kind of looked at it like, that's not something we see every day up north.
It's like you'd think that there was an alien standing right there in front.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a completely different environment for sure.
Yeah, it's like you stepped onto Mars or something in a sense.
Yeah, it's funny when we first moved to Texas, we had several people that would anybody that's in here from Texas that they're going to hate me when I say this because they've made it very clear I am not a true Texan because I was not born and raised in Texas, but they always claim about how humid it is here. And coming from the Northeast, I was up in Maryland and, the Chesapeake Bay and all the waterways that run through there. That's where you really learn about humidity when you're on the coastline somewhere. And so, to me, the humidity level is good because even in the hot climate, when it's, upper 90s or low hundreds, you can stand in the shade and most of the time you're okay.
Yeah.
Whereas in Maryland, it'd be, low to mid 80s. You step outside and you basically felt like you just got out of the tub.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is that way here sometimes, especially when those tropical storms come up through the Gulf and things like that. But and you're not far enough south that you're feeling the full effects of that. Thankfully, huh?
No, my brother lives down in Houston area, and I have not visited, nor do I. Hopefully, he's not listening. I don't really want to go down there.
Hey, it's beautiful down there. It's beautiful down there. It's just it's like smothering humid. But that is what it is. So how long have you guys been living in Texas, did you say?
Since 2014, we moved down. Yeah, and the main goal for us was to live off the land. And, up in the Northeast, land is very expensive. So,
yeah.
We were trying to find a place, and this is where the Lord led us. And so we bought 10 acres. And my parents live on the same property. They built their retirement home right next door to us. And so in some of our videos, you'll see my dad highlighted in those. Actually, one of the most viewed videos I have right now, I think I'm up around 9,000 views on it. And it's a tool that he tried to build himself, and it failed. So he keeps trying to find ways to make this tool work. And I told him the last time, I was like, Dad, I think enough is enough. It's not going to work in this environment, But yeah, so we live here and my parents are here. My wife and I, we've been married for 25 years. Yep. And we have 8 kids together, and they're all our kids. That's one of the questions that people used to ask us is if they were all ours, meaning are we a blended family? And the answer is no. And yes, we do know how it happens. That's another question that's usually asked, and we know how babies are made, so we got that part down pat. But yeah, so we just live here on our property, and we have cows, pigs, chickens, ducks, rabbits, quail, turkey. A while back, the objective was, and this was before all the COVID stuff hit, the objective was to be able to sustain ourselves from meat so that we didn't have to purchase any meat.
Yeah.
And so, within, I would say the last 2 or 3 years, we've been able to do that. So it was a huge blessing.
Wow. That's a great accomplishment.
It's a lot of hard work. A lot of people ask that. Anybody that has any kind of homestead or, even from a prepping perspective, trying to think of everything that you need to prepare for is so hard to do.
Yeah.
And obviously, the more people, the more mouths you have to feed, the more you have to try to plan for. So
yeah, absolutely. It is. And there's always going to be something. You're never completely finished when you're preparing or homesteading. There's always work to do. And then the seasons change, and then you've got new work to do. It just never ends.
Yeah. That's one of the things that my wife and I, we kind of figured out along the way, and I guess you can say fortunately we're a YouTube family. In other words, when we moved down here, my wife and I, we knew nothing about farming, nothing about homesteading, nothing really about prepping. The extent of prepping was for us to go to the grocery store and buy as much as you can afford. That's
Yeah.
what the idea for us was then, as what prepping meant. Um, we it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things that when you kind of step back and look at it, um, you have to learn other ways opposed to just stocking your shelves full of food.
You have to have a way to replenish it if you can no longer go to the grocery store to get it.
That's exactly right. And
So,
even from our side, if we were just talking about from a homesteading perspective, and it's funny that we kind of learned this along the way. It was never taught to us, but it reminded me of when I was a child going to my grandparents' house. They were very, as a child, they were very old. They were already in their 70s or 60s.
yeah,
So, they were raised in a farming industry. And so it would be nothing for some strange person that I had never seen before to stop by and give my grandmother a basket of red tomatoes, and then she'd say, "Oh, you know what? I have a basket of potatoes," and they would just swap, or they would barter. And so that's where my wife and I, we learned along the way that we cannot physically afford or maintain all the animals that we would need to be able to feed just our house or our home. So we've learned that what we raise, we try to take that and barter back with other people.
right, right. You have a couple of questions here. Alley Cat's Prepared Life asks, "Are you vegetarian?"
I'm assuming that's a joke. No, and if not, I'm sorry. No, I am
No need to
certain.
be sorry. No need to be sorry.
I am certainly not. I eat a lot of protein. I do eat vegetables, of course, too. My wife and I, we try to eat a very clean diet. I heard some of the things you were talking about, like chronic pain and chronic illnesses and things
Right.
like that. And that's actually what drove my wife and I to looking at what we were eating, because when my oldest son, was coming of age around the 13-year mark, he started having a lot of acne. He started having some really bad body odor. And a lot of people would say, well, that's just normal. But when we took him to the pediatrician, she had actually said, because she was dealing with a personal issue of her own with her kids. And she found out that she started, and you would figure a doctor would know this, but she did a lot of research and found out. She told us, she said, a lot of times it's not what you're doing on the outside of your body that is causing these problems. It's what you're putting inside your body.
Yeah.
So a lot of the body odors and the acne and a lot of these other things that people are dealing with, and
Yeah.
because you're talking about chronic pain, a lot
Mhm.
of times it's the foods that we're eating
Yeah.
that is not really good for us, even when it's posed as being good for us.
Yeah. Food and gut health. Gut health is a big deal too, because once you take antibiotics, your gut health is probably in need of some revision after that. Suburban Hillbilly wants to know, do you process your own meat?
And so that's yes and no. So the cattle business that my wife and I have, we raise the cattle for us to consume, number one. But what we also try to do is to cut our cost on all the beef. And the way we do that is we sell a portion of every cow to basically cover the cost of the processing fee. Now, in order for us to legally sell it, we have to have it processed by a registered butcher. Now,
Right.
there it's a little bit different here in Texas. They can be Texas certified, which is basically the same as the FDA.
Right.
And so, with the butcher that we use, we have the capability of or having them process it, and then we can sell it pretty much anywhere we'd like.
Oh, that's
So,
awesome.
yeah, and so that's how we cut the cost on the beef side, and then also on the pork, we do the same thing. But we do our own rabbits, chickens. When we do chickens, we'll do our own turkey this year. This will be the first year that we've been able to raise our own turkey for Thanksgiving. We're super excited about that. We've had to put down a couple cows and pigs to the where they weren't putting on the weight that we needed them, and it was going to cost us a lot of money to process them. So there's another butcher that we know that is not Texas certified or FDA certified, but they're able to process it the way we want. They do a lot of venison and things like that. So what we
Oh,
did,
yeah.
we processed the cow down to quarters, and then was able to hand it off to them, and they were able to ground it up and or cut steaks out of it or whatever we were looking for.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah, one of the things, since it's a prepping channel, that's what I'll shoot for. And when I say this, that one of the things that we look at is, are we prepared in the event that things do shut down? So in our world, when it came to the whole 2019 leading up into 2020, uh, the butcher that we were able to schedule cows or pigs to be butchered, in a month and a half, 2 month time period, gives us enough time to get them where we need them to be, and then send them off and on time, not have to fight it. The moment that everything started to shut down, the processing time went from a month and a half to about 9 months.
Yeah.
So because we have a good relationship with our butcher, and because they want to keep their books full, a lot of people are panicked and they've got their name on the books. But what they will do is they will call us. And the last time this happened, or 2 times ago, they called us and said, we have a spot for 2 cows. Do you have 2 cows? And I said, yes, absolutely. When do you want them there? And they said, tomorrow morning. And I was like, if I say no, I'm going to have to wait another 9 months.
Yeah.
And so I had to go home from work, because I work a full-time job. Went to my brother-in-law's places, which is where we keep all of our calves before processing. That's their last stage before we take them off to the butcher.
Right.
And so, wouldn't you know it, our plan was Saturday morning to go over and pick them up. And of course, it rained hard
Oh, no.
Saturday morning. Unbeknownst to us, this living out in the plains, that it can be clear in one moment and the next you have storms sitting on top of you.
Yep. Yep.
And so we actually did a whole video about that. We got stuck, and thankfully there was a neighbor that had a long tow strap that was able to reach into the pasture and pull us out.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's a blessing. That's one good thing about our area. Neighbors typically help each other out. Question: are you going to be selling beef tallow and suet?
Yeah, so we were actually just talking about that last night. I went to dinner with my family, and that's actually a very prized piece of the cow. And a lot of times the butcher doesn't tell you about that. You have to request for it to get back. And so, yes, we basically, when we go to butcher, I get everything back. And even some things that people, depending on your culture,
Right.
some people eat certain parts of the cow that other people don't. And
Mhm.
one thing that I've tried to teach my kids, and again myself, because we didn't we were not raised like this, is that every piece of that animal, the way you respect it, is to at least try it.
Yeah. Utilize it all if you
And
can.
if you don't like it, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I don't throw anything away. I've even had oxtail a few times where I've just given it to people. One gentleman was married to a Mexican lady, and there was something that they did. I don't know what it is. Excuse me for my ignorance, but it was something with a pig's head, that they basically just took the whole head. And so I didn't know what to do with it, so I just requested it back. I had it in a package and just gave it to him, because I'd rather him eat it
Yeah.
than for it to be thrown away.
Yep. I hear that the cheeks are some of the best meat. I don't know.
I've heard that, yeah.
Teresa Love Spims wants to know, how big did this year's turkey grow to, or do you process more than one turkey?
Yeah, so this year was our very first year for doing the turkeys. And so this is kind of a trial and error. Now we had at one point 12 of them, and I think it's something in the genetics of every bird that they are just literally the stupidest animals known to mankind. because I had the same problem with chickens. I will have them in a cage. It's a dog run. And I've
Mhm.
had a chicken, I'll go out in the morning and something has ripped their head off. And it wasn't just one, it was like four of them. And I can only imagine the conversation that's going through these chickens' heads, like as one pokes its head out, it's like, I wonder what that animal is. And it gets its head ripped off. And the next one said, hey, did you see what happened to Bob? Maybe we should put our head out the same exact hole he did. You know?
Raccoons and skunks are really bad about that. Possums are really bad about that. But yeah, the dogs too,
Yeah.
they're not quick enough. I guess that's where the term bird brain came from.
See?
So
Yeah, so as far as the turkeys though, I'm kind of gauging the one that we're looking to butcher, and I would say I would guess he's about 10 to 12 pounds. And the thing is that with a lot of our meat birds, we will still let them free range because around where we put them out for free range, there's a lot of trees, so they're able to hide from the hawks. And I also have two dogs that are constantly outside, so they keep a lot of things away from the yard. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. I hope that I'm sure it's going to be great. I can't wait.
I wanted chickens so bad, and then I went over to a friend's house who had just gotten some chickens, and I was within 4 feet of them, and my face started swelling. My eyes almost swelled completely shut. And then I remembered back whenever I was a teenager, I had allergy testing, and I'm allergic to a ton of different kinds of feathers. So I can't have them, but my brother-in-law does have them up the road. And if we needed to get birds from him, we could in a bad situation, and we get eggs from him, fresh eggs. So I guess we can live with that. But I really wanted chickens.
Nah, you don't need them. Let somebody else raise them. You
Let
can
somebody
trade
else
them.
do it.
Now, one thing I'll say though about that is because I can't stand chickens. Anybody that deals with me knows I tolerate them because of my wife. Now, I have an egg allergy to chickens, so that's why we have ducks. I like ducks. Ducks are okay. It's just the chickens that really irritate me. But what I'll say is that with the rabbits, I don't know if you've ever considered raising rabbits, if you're able to, wherever you are, but rabbits are fantastic. It's all white meat. It's very lean, high in protein. It's really good for you. The only thing is, I heard, and my dad was telling me this, that he had heard that, what were those two explorers? Something and Clark.
Lewis and Clark.
Lewis and Clark. There you go. That several people on their little trek across the country actually died because of not having enough fat in their diet.
And rabbits don't have enough fat on them. You have to find a way to supplement the fat. It's not that you need a ton, but you definitely have to still have fat, and they don't have enough. You can starve to death on rabbit. But it's a good source of protein if you have other fats stored to add into that. Alley Cat's Prepared Life wants to know how much to buy a processed cow from you.
Is Alley Cat in Texas, or is she just trying to get regular pricing? Yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends. I mean, this is one of those things. Actually, I've been talking to been watching a lot of videos about meat shortages and things like that. And am I allowed to get on a soapbox here for a second?
Sure, you can.
Okay, so one of the things that this gentleman is doing is he's trying to work away from the FDA, and the reason why is because of the processing that a cow goes through from start to finish. There's a lot of hands, a lot of changing of locations and things like that. And in the old days, there were butchers in every town.
Right.
So basically what would happen is the rancher would take the meat or the cow to the butcher would process it and then basically give it to, let's just say, Alley Cat.
Right.
And it's a done deal. It's changing hands 2 different times.
Right.
And the problem that we're having right now is, as this guy was saying, is after the Great Depression, everybody got into this mindset of wanting quantity over quality.
Yeah.
This back to what you were talking about and what we kind of talked about with, what you're putting in your body.
Mm.
And so the thing is that a lot of times, what people do with the beef business is it's a lot like the gold and everything else in the stock market. It goes up and it goes down. So this gentleman on this one particular channel I was watching, which made a lot of sense, was saying that there is not actually a meat shortage because he knows a lot of ranchers currently that can't sell their cows. And the
Yeah.
reason why they can't sell them is because all the people down in South America are selling everything rock bottom because they don't have the grains and stuff like that to feed.
Yeah.
And so the more that we support purchasing meats through the Walmarts and the Krogers and the Albertsons and whatever grocery store is close to you, uh, the more it gives them leverage to do what they want to do. Just like now, they're saying there's a food shortage or a meat shortage. And what happens to all the prices? The prices jump.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that people like me that sell to people like you, our prices never change.
Yeah. Nope. They sure
And
don't.
and the thing is that for me, I'm not in it to make a ton of money. What I'm into it for is to make enough money to have the meat that my family needs
Right.
to be paid for. Now,
Right.
ultimately, I'm footing all the bill up front because I'm paying for the hay, I'm paying for the care, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. There are so many farmers out there. If you know a farmer and you know a butcher, all you got to do is get them connected
Yeah.
and then you can go and get your meat. Now, here's the thing, and I'm just being completely transparent. Normally, if you're purchasing a box of beef from us, it's a mixed box and it averages around $8 a pound. Now, that is a little bit higher, but what we do is all we have is grass fed beef. There is nothing else. Even the
Yeah.
hay that I purchase, I try my hardest to find unfertilized hay. And normally you can find that because there's a lot of guys out there that don't want to put all that extra money into fertilizing everything.
Yeah.
But so that's normally what it is. I don't know where Alley Cat is. If you go over to my channel on the About tab, my email address is in there. Uh, Feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to either help educate pricing or kind of what to look for if you're not around here. That's kind of one of the reasons why we started the channel that we have is because when we first started doing this from a live cow perspective, we were taken advantage of one too many times.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I want to sell my own cows. I want to raise my own cows. I want whatever we do, I want to do it ourselves. And the reason why is because I'm tired of people lying to me. And because I'm not educated enough to know what it is, I'm buying it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we tell people is we're as honest as we can be. And if you have any questions, ask. We'll help you wherever we can.
Yeah.
That's what our promise is to you.
Yeah. The way that the ranches that do that around here, what they do is they will let people know they're going to have calves. They don't know what the size will be when they're ready, but you know they let them know you can buy them by the quarter, by the half, by the whole, however you want to do it. And then what happens is they set up a butcher date. They let you know when the butcher date's going to be. You prepay the ranch for the cow for approximately how much the cow's going to weigh. They let you know closer to time. And then the butcher will not release that meat until the ranch is paid. So that's how they do it around here, and it helps. But most people, if you check with your farming communities that do cattle ranching, they usually have butcher dates that they have preset, and you can check around and see what type of feed they feed them and everything. Ours are grass fed as well. We graze our own hay, and so we know exactly what's put on that, and we grow it. But you still are out the cost of the diesel for the tractor to cut it, to bale it, all of that stuff. You're out all of that, and plus the time. So A lot of times, like if anything ever happens to my father-in-law, the equipment will be sold. It's not ours, it's my father-in-law's. So if that happens, my husband's already made arrangements with somebody who does have a baler, and he's exchanging help baling the other guy's stuff for using the baler in our fields. So works out good for us. But some people don't have enough acreage to do that, and they have to just use what acreage they have to feed their cows.
So true.
Let's see. So did you guys go into homesteading because from a prepping standpoint, or was it just basically you didn't want to be stuck as a consumer, or was it like a combination of both, not being reliant on a system?
Well, originally, going back to my oldest son, um, that was the main reason that we wanted to at least know what the animals that we were eating
Right.
were being fed, or how they were being processed. And so
Right.
it's kind of a gradual thing. Again, when we were in Maryland, we lived in a little townhouse, and so we try to eat more organic, which
Right.
now that I'm in the cattle business, I understand that really isn't too important either. But to the consumer, like the uneducated person, they'll buy that hook, line, and sinker and spend all that extra money on that. Um, but so yeah, originally it was trying to understand what we were eating, and then as we got into understanding that we could do this because we were just city folk,
Right.
so to know that we could raise our own animals and be able to process them ourselves, that's when we started thinking like, why do we go to the grocery store? If we have enough property to be able to raise the food that we need, then why are we doing that? And so that's what kind of kicked us in gear to look at it from a perspective of, let's stop relying on other people and start relying
Mm,
on ourselves. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about the bartering thing, because when you get in that mindset that I can do it by myself, I don't need anybody, then you quickly become overwhelmed and you lose a lot of motivation to do it because you always feel like you're behind. Whereas when you're bartering with people, you feel like, you know what? I wasn't able to raise hogs this year, but that's okay because I can take the extra calf that I had and I can trade it for a hog, or
right.
I can process mine and give half of this to them, and they'll give me half of that.
Yeah.
And so, to your point about the hay, this year I traded a pair. It was a mama cow and her calf, and she was also bred back. So I traded her for about 30 bales of hay, and that was more meaningful to me than keeping her, just because I needed the hay to get through winter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it takes, bartering. Just like we had a fence that we just tore out that needs to be redone. A guy that has a fencing business that he does on the weekends. Like my husband knows how to put the fence up. Okay, he can do it, but having an extra hand makes all the difference, as you well know. So the guy needed his truck worked on. So my husband said, "Well, come over." He's a mechanic, so he worked on his truck, and the other guy's going to come this weekend and help put up the fence, the quarter-mile fence. I mean, it pays to know other people and to develop that network and that bartering system. And as long as it's fair to both sides, it's fair. So
That's right.
if both sides are happy with it, then that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And
I've
that,
I've seen. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that there was somebody that I don't remember where I met this person, but they were saying that you know you're bartering as long as both sides agree, then you're in good standing.
Mm,
But the moment that one feels like the other one is not fair, then you just don't barter with that person anymore. So it's
right.
beneficial to make sure that all parties involved are in agreement that yes, that's a
Right.
good deal.
You want both sides to walk away happy and feeling satisfied with that deal, and no one feeling like they're being gypped or losing out in some way. Absolutely. So I've watched some of your videos. I'm fairly new to your channel. So I've seen videos with you and your wife castrating pigs. You were very wise to have those earmuffs on. Canning videos, recipes, different kinds of recipes over there. And your weaning calf eating through the fence. That was quite funny. I would suggest on that, because it was suckling the mom through the fence, pig panels for that section. That might be an idea.
Out of all the years I've done this, I think he's the first one that has mastered. And I don't even know how he got his fat head through there, because after she's had enough and she's like, I'm out of here. And because he can't get a good latch. So I know that it's not comfortable for her. And so he kind of walks away, and then he just stares at her with his head through the fence. And then finally you kind of see him like work, trying to get the ears through. And, he eventually gets back through, but
Oh, that was too funny. But yeah, there's ones that are just a little smarter than the rest, and they try to get something figured out. And mom's so miserable, she's like, "Here, I'll try to help you in any way I can."
right.
Oh my goodness. So I already know the answer to this, but a lot of people, they go into homesteading and they want all of the animals and all of the stuff like right away, like huge garden, tons of animals and all of that all the way in. Would you be able to handle back when you first started what you have now when you first started?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's funny because some people who don't live like this, when they come to visit. So as I mentioned earlier, I had a friend that came by, and I told him, I said, look, you can come visit. I want you here, but you have to understand, I live on a farm now, so I have work to do. And he said, no, I'm there for the full experience. Just use me like I'm one of the ranch hands. I said, no problem. And
Oh
so,
boy.
yeah, right. So I'll be honest, I did take it easy on him a little bit. I
Oh.
didn't want to scare him too much. But it's a newfound respect, if you will. And that was one of the things. So I haven't put it together yet, but I'm doing a video about a city slicker being on the ranch, and at the end, I just kind of interviewed him, like, how did you feel about it? And what did you think about having to do all this work? And, it was funny because just in the short time that he was here, he had like a whole new perspective on all the food that he goes to the grocery store and buys. And he even said, he's like, well, I don't have anywhere like this to go up in Maryland. I said, that's not true. They're there. You just have to go and you have to find them.
Mm-hmm.
And, but one of the messages my wife and I, we do speak about on a regular basis, because as I mentioned earlier, we're a YouTube family. So everything that we've learned from YouTube. And one of my first videos I did was something that I could not find on YouTube. And that was one of my cows had fallen and I couldn't get her to her feet. And so I had to figure out a way to get her to her feet. And some other people had suggested some things. And, I didn't have all the material that these people, because they were cattle ranchers. And I'm like, well, I don't have all that netting and, all these special lift devices. I don't have that stuff. And so I did a video on that. That's what kind of confirmed for me that I needed to do this, which is why you have a plethora of things that we do. We just do videos on whatever we're doing for the day or whatever.
Right.
But even like the message that we try to share with people is the fact of, don't overwhelm yourself in the beginning.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere. Don't look at somebody like me or like you or, anybody else that has a lot of different animals or whatever they're doing and think, oh, that's what I want to do, and just jump into it.
Yeah.
You need to take time to do the research. And so what we've done, my wife and I, this is like a ministry for us to take people who are moving from the suburbs and from the cities and buying these ranches and have absolutely no clue what to do. And they get into a panic because they don't have any way to handle cattle. They don't know what to do with them. And they're trying to keep the agriculture exemption. And so what we've done is we've come alongside of these families and we've tried to partner with them and we try to educate them through our animals.
Yeah.
So I'll take my cattle, I'll put them on your property, but I want to teach you how to handle them. And so
Right.
we help each other because you're giving me grass and I'm
Right.
giving you the knowledge. And so everybody feels good about that. And
Right.
as they grow, then we start pulling away more and more. But there has been a few families that we have seen where they buy the cattle and then they buy horses and then they buy pigs and then they buy the chickens. And the thing is that when you don't know how to maintain them, like for example, as you mentioned about the castration video for the pigs,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people look at that and they're like, man, that's hard. How do you do that? And I said, well, because I know that if I want to raise them for food, then they can't have testicles or else they're going to go after their mama.
Yeah.
And you know what most people don't know unless you've ever raised pigs is if they want to go, they're not going to be stopped.
Yeah.
They're extremely strong animals and very determined, much like a bull. They're going to find a way to make it happen. And what other people don't know is that 6 months, these pigs are ready to start
Mating. Yeah.
mating,
Mm-hmm.
which is why we have such a feral hog issue.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm swatting at a fly in here.
I just thought you was waving for no.
Yeah. But no, but I mean that's why it's so important to be able to know what you're getting yourself into. And so a lot of these families where they don't know that, before they know it, they have 30 pigs.
Yeah.
And their pastures keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger
Yeah.
because they're not controlling that process of it.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the same thing with the chickens. You know, before they know it, they have 80 chickens running around and 50 ducks, and it can get out of hand very quickly.
Oh yeah.
And as a responsible owner, that's what you have to be able to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Huga Homestead wants to know: do chickens like their coops in the shade?
Yeah. So for me, our chickens right now, I made a boo boo and I moved the chicken coop, and the chickens didn't want to follow in line, so they just stayed over where they were. And so I wound up putting the coop back months later, and now no one wants to do anything that I've asked them to do. So I got a chicken problem. They're everywhere. They're in every stall in the barn. They're out behind the air conditioned unit. They're around the hay bales out in the front yard. They're everywhere. And so
Hence one of the reasons why you hate chickens, right?
that's part of it. That's part of it. But you know, for me, I also have a chicken tractor, and so I do try to offer shade, especially here in Texas. I would never put them in
Yeah.
a spot where there's not shade. But
Yeah.
the biggest concern I've found that chickens are pretty um, uh, self reliable. You know, they don't really need a whole lot of help from people because they can go find bugs. They'll eat the grass, and if you don't give them what they want, they'll go to the next yard.
Yeah.
So I do like that part of it because they usually do come back unless an animal gets to them first. But the biggest problem I have here is predatory animals, you know, like hawks during the day. At nighttime,
Yeah.
I do have to worry about possums and skunks and
Owls.
owls. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Does anybody have any more questions over there? Let me take a quick look real quick. How long did it take them to find their 10 acres? How long did it take y'all to find your 10 acres?
Oh man, it was such a blessing. To be honest with you, I was transferring within my company to come down here. And originally I was going to have to take vacation time. So I asked them, I was like, well, I mean, since I'm transferring, are you going to give me some time to look for a house? And they were like, yeah, we'll give you some time. We'll give you 3 days. I was like, wait, 3 days to find a house? So it was a huge blessing.
Wow.
Yeah. So actually it wasn't my wife and I that came to look. It was my mom and I, because we were buying the property together. And so I was representing my side. She was representing her and my dad. And so we came down, and she really didn't care as long as she had room to build her retirement home.
Right.
And so there really was only one house that fit what we were looking for based upon the size of my family. So it took us 3 days. So I'll give all the credit to the Lord for that.
Oh, wow. That's
blessing.
awesome. That's awesome. So let's see. There was something I was going to say. My brain just went pew. Um, so what would you suggest? Well, okay. One point I was going to make is like you've been teaching people how to, you know, take care of animals, the animal husbandry side of things and stuff. Um, I highly suggest anybody who's thinking about living this lifestyle to go and help out at farms and learn that way. They would probably love the free help for the free training that you get from it. It's a lot of hard work, but you can know whether maybe you could physically handle it or not. You could know more like approximately how many animals you could handle to start off, things like that. Are there any other suggestions that you can think of for people who are wanting to get started raising their own food and crops?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the videos we did, it's called Homesteading 101. It was a collaborative effort we did with Ormsby Farms, and
Okay.
my wife specifically talked about what animals to look at and why that you wanted to go for those types of animals. What I would say is absolutely, I agree 100%. When my friend was here, that was one of the things that I was asking him is, if he enjoyed coming and working on the farm. And he said that, first of all, that he loved it. Never would have thought it because he wasn't raised on a farm, never really went to a farm. But what better way to understand the process or to understand what all is involved and what you're looking at than
Yeah.
going and offering. And that's the thing is, look, I could almost guarantee any farm that you reach out to and tell them that you're interested in that lifestyle, and if it's okay if you come and shadow them for the day or for a couple weekends or something like that,
Hmm.
I'm certain that they would take you up on the offer.
Yeah, and
Like,
learning skills like building fence or working the cattle or things like that. It's a perfect opportunity. They need the extra hands. They need so they would appreciate it. I know my husband would probably not turn down somebody unless they just seemed real janky, like maybe on something or whatever. He
yeah,
would more than likely welcome the help. Um, so, yeah, I agree. And don't be overwhelmed whenever you go out and help them. Understand that they've taken a while to build up to that. Like your friend coming and helping you on the ranch. That's a whole different thing because you've built up to that.
yeah, and that's the piece of it. I think again, as long as you find somebody that's reasonable, like a farm or a ranch that's reasonable, they're going
Hmm.
to be able to explain that piece that that this is just something that I've worked up to or I was raised in this. I
Right.
mean, like my kids. So we recently partnered with a neighbor friend of mine. She's got 3.5, 4 acres over there, and her husband recently passed away, and she just wanted to go out and look at cows grazing in her backyard. So my two of my younger boys helped me build a fence to contain these cows on there, and I went and talked to the lady, and she said, your son, and she was talking about my 13-year-old. She said, your son is so knowledgeable about cows. It just really blew me away. And it made me proud to know that. But the difference is, too, that he's been doing it for the last 7 years. He's been watching me make a lot
Right.
of mistakes. So he
Uh,
knows how to do those sorts of things. And so,
right.
yeah, I mean, man, this fly is just killing me over here. What is this thing doing? Uh, anyway,
He's
I,
after you.
I tell you, I actually had a friend of ours that we met through Instagram or something like that, and we actually started calling her the intern because she was part of FFA in high school, but she had no idea what ranch life was actually like. She only
Hmm.
knew what it was like to raise her pigs and her cows inside of a barn on the
Yeah.
property of the school.
Yeah.
So she wanted to see what it was like to take them through the chute, how we control a herd, how we administer worming or antibiotics, or if
Hmm.
what we're looking for as we put them in the chute. It was just so many things that to me, it was really a surprise that somebody like her didn't know it. And when she first got here, I was cautious because I'm like, man, this girl, she probably knows more than I know about anything with these cows. And it was refreshing because she was teaching me things about the personalities of the cows and how
Hmm.
to handle them. Whereas I was showing her how we run them and take care of them as being a meat breed and not a show cow.
Right. Right. And you can help each other out in that sense. And you do, if you do happen to come across a good a nice good example of a cow, it's great to contact your local 4-H or your local FFA and see if they might want to come out and take a gander at your animals, and you might make a little money that way. Plus, you'd be helping them out. They can come take a look and kind of grade them and see. And it also may be great for breeding stock, also, just specifically for that purpose. I know there are farmers that raise pigs and things like that specifically for that. So that's another direction that a farm can go as well,
Wow,
with
that's
that.
very smart. Thank you.
Hmm. Let's see. Oh, Mouse Toes wanted to know if there was already a barn on the property whenever you moved there.
Yeah, so there was a barn, and the previous owner had 4 stalls dedicated to horses, and we are definitely not horse people.
Yeah,
Just ignore me. I,
that flight's gonna get the best of you yet.
I'm telling you. Um, but yeah, so what we did is we transformed the barn to make it serve our purpose. So
Right.
I have the tack room is where we keep all of our electric stuff for rotational grazing for the cows and the pigs. All the fencing is in one section. I have a whole stall dedicated to firewood so that we don't have to use any electric in the wintertime. Um, yes, I agree with that 100%. Horses are expensive. I didn't know
Horses
this
will
until I read a book that horses eat 23 hours out of the day.
they will eat 4 times as much as a grown cow
Yeah.
during the
Yep.
day.
And
Four
I,
times as much.
and it's funny because a lot of these families that I try to help mentor, and when they're buying all these animals, I tell them when they say, "Oh, I want to buy a horse," and I always tell them, I say, "You need to be very careful about that.
Make sure
Understand."
you have the grazing, you have the area to accommodate. Because okay, like we have 160 acres here.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so it's awesome, but people don't realize about the maximum that we need of cows, head of cow on our property is 25 grown cows and their babies.
Okay, because of the grazable piece.
Hmm. Hmm. Because we also grow our own hay. So we have to be able to rotate them around, cut the hay in those particular land areas and pastures. And so we just keep them rotating through here. So, and of course, when the babies get to weaning age, if they're a female, we typically keep them, and if they're male, we typically send them on to the um, farm sale or to the butcher, depending.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the way we work that here. Every farm is different, but that's how we do that to keep enough grass on hand to keep them fed, plus to have enough for over winter to hay. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if there's any other. Trying to
Yeah,
see.
I was noticing one of the comments. I think it was Alley Cat.
Let's go.
Uh, it was something. Maybe I misread it, but I was going to say that's another thing that we do when we process our own animals. There's a lot of people who are in the raw food business, if you will, for their
Uh,
dogs. And so when we go to process all of our rabbits, chickens, anything like that, uh, we bag everything, call the people, and they come and take the whole bag and use that to feed uh, all their dogs. There's always ways around work. There's always workarounds.
mm,
You just got to figure out what it is. That's the
yeah,
key.
yeah. Let's see. I was trying to see. There was something else. Serious land management for sure. But you can make it work for whatever size property you're on. You just have to be realistic. I have 160 acres. That doesn't mean I can have 160 cows out there grazing that. I mean, you have to figure out. Now, if we wasn't raising our own hay, that might be a little different. We could have more, but you have to determine, you have to do your research and find out how many head of cattle that land will take care of well. You don't want to be starving your cows, okay?
Yeah, and if you go to the agricultural part of whatever county you're in, usually you can just call them. So like where I am, they recommend one full grown cow for every 2 acres.
Right.
And that
Right.
is with the intent of not having to buy hay. Now,
Okay.
one of the things that I do is I go out and I try to find people that have large parcels of land,
Mm-hmm.
and then I either put a fence up or I will take care of the existing fence
Mm-hmm.
so that they can get ag exemption. And a lot of older folks don't want to deal with the cattle anymore. If you're a trustworthy person, if you build a
Right.
good relationship with them, or they know, or people know who you are, then they're more willing to do that. And so
Right.
I lost 2 leases this year, but I made up for it because there's a guy that was willing to let me lease his property. He's got 60 acres. And so it gave me the opportunity, once I get the fencing finished, to be able to take them from my place and put them over there and have either little to no hay that I'm going to have to purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of our big deals too is there's certain pasture that we can't use during certain times of the year because the shinnery is in bloom, and that can be toxic to the cows. So we make sure that area, the cows are out of that whenever it's getting close to time for that to bloom. So it kind of depends on the plants you have, and we knock it out and it comes right back. It's just one of those very persistent plants in our area. So that's another thing as well. You have to look and you have to do your research on what's growing in the area that you're planning on purchasing. Make sure it's not going to be toxic to the animals that you're going to have on your land. So that's another thing I would suggest. Alley Cat says she's never going to complain about the price of meat again after listening to us.
Well, I tell you, it is certainly a lot of work, but it is so rewarding
Yeah.
uh, to
Oh,
be able
go
to do
ahead.
that. Well, I was going to say and the other thing is too that if you were able to partner with somebody or to go to somebody's ranch and experience that, how much more that would mean to know that if you were able to make a deal with them, so to speak, or just say, hey, in the future, I would like to purchase a quarter cow or a half
Yeah.
cow or something like that. And sometimes, and that'll give you a sense of accomplishment too, because you were there, you experienced it, you put your
Mm-hmm.
hands on it.
Yeah.
And, the thing is too, sometimes when somebody says, well, I don't sell half cows or quarter cows, how hard is it to go find a couple friends and say, hey, let's go in together. Let's get 4 people or 8 people. And
Exactly.
because that helps the little people. And when I say little people, I'm talking about people who don't have thousands of acres with hundreds upon
Right.
hundreds of heads of cattle. I know if I was able to, if I knew that I had a list of people that were ready to purchase every year, I would be ready to have them processed out without even question. But you have to start planning out, who am I going to keep, who am I not, where do I put them?
Yep. Absolutely. Somebody mentioned something about donkeys being less expensive, and they really are. We have our donkey. His name is Festus. He had a woman, Irma, but she got old and she passed. But Festus is out there. He's a short little thing, like he comes up to my hips. His back comes up to my hips. But he's out there and he is feisty. He will fight the coyotes. He will. Now you have to be careful about the temperament of the donkeys and mules that you get. But Festus is awesome. him. He's a little thing, and he doesn't run our cows to death. He kind of thinks he's one of the cows, but he lets us know if a bobcat is out there, if coyotes are out there. You can hear him hooting and hollering and letting us know, sounding the alarm. He's our guard donkey. So that's another thing that a lot of people will do is they'll get some mules or donkeys and they'll put them in with their cattle, and they help protect against certain predators. So for those that are wondering about that, but you do have to be careful because a neighbor's donkey that was much larger, well, it was a mule, and he come in on our property and actually chased one of our or a couple of our cows to death because he kept getting over the fence. So there's pros and cons to that. You have to make sure that they're compatible with your cattle. If you're going to buy one, you might see if you can find somebody who already has them running with cattle to make sure that they're compatible with them before you bring them onto your land, because losing even one animal, I mean, that's just something a farmer can't afford to do. So, well, thank you so much, Eric, for coming. What time is your live stream on Thursdays?
Yeah, my live streams are from 8 to 10 Central Time on Thursdays.
Okay.
And so tomorrow we have a special live. We're gonna have my dad, which is a vet, and I have a special lady that's going to come. She writes a lot of different songs. She's a smaller channel, but she's got a song that she wrote just for vets, and so she's going to perform. And so I'm really excited about that. And then our main guest tomorrow is going to be MT Homestead. They're around this circle of people, I think. So people have probably heard of them. If not, come check them out as well. But we're going to have a lot of people tomorrow, and it's usually a great time. A lot of people come, and it's just really a way for us to continue to communicate and build those ties with our community. As I've learned, our community is not just the people next door physically. There are people that are next door on YouTube as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, with that in mind, thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe to Blaine's Promised Land Ranch. I've got their channel pinned at the top of this. Thank you so much, Eric. And thank you to our veterans, each and every one of you. I appreciate and love you so much for all you do for our country, all that are serving now, all that continue to serve, and to their families, because the families make great sacrifices as well. I love each of you. God bless. And remember, guys, to prep for it. Prep for it all. Bye, guys.